Today, I am doing my community project, bringing technology to the science class. Joshua Carroll, and let's get started. So, who am I? My name is Joshua Carroll. I am a sixth grade science and social studies teacher at Ruth Dual Middle School, and I am currently working towards my master's of arts in teaching. And so, by doing this project, we are discussing the problems that we have in our classroom with technology and how to solve that using technology and the tools that we have available to us, and why would we do that. So, who are my students? I want to start with that first before we get into the problem, because I believe that my students kind of form a large portion of what the problem is. So I teach sixth grade, so those are usually 11 to 12-year olds with a little bit of 13-year olds kind of mixed in there. This particular lesson is pertaining to science, and these students are really pretty experienced with technology, and in some ways, even more experienced than I am myself. And they all come from varied economic backgrounds and different demographics. It's really pretty sharp contrast. Either they are very affluent or they're very poor. And we'll get to that when we start talking about the problem, because that's really where our core problem lies. So our students fall into two categories. Like I said, they're either extraordinarily or very affluent, or they are economically disadvantaged. And then their socioeconomics really plays a role into how they learn. And so the economically disadvantaged students do not have access outside of the school to technology like the affluent students do. Um, Most have access to cell phones, but when we're talking about classroom tools, computers are very sharply divided between who does and doesn't have access to that. So, with that in mind, there is technology in the classroom, but the scope that we have it is limited at best, and especially when we're talking about students under the age of 13. And once students leave school for the day, they no longer have access at home in a lot of cases. So, then we end up entering into this other problem where students tend to disengage when using technology, because if they don't have it at home, they're checking out during the lessons because they're wanting to explore the web and do the things that they don't get to do at home. And so the norms of how to use the technology just don't land with them very often. And so what we have to do is we have to find ways to keep them engaged. And so this is kind of what we're going to do about it. The process that I have found worked with us is, first we introduce the new tools that we're going to use on their devices. If it's a new app, I'll show them how to get to the app, how to upload the app, and what to do with that. Or if it's a website, I'll model navigating the website for them. Next, we will review the norms. So what's expected when we're using this technology in class? How are we going to proceed through that? And um, why? And what are the consequences if we don't do this? So then the agenda and outline will be provided on the class app. So first we introduce the tools, then we go over the norms, and then I will show them the agenda and outline through their class app Schoology. And then we will move into the tools. And this usually is when they start to get excited, and it really grabs their attention and fosters some enthusiasm, especially if they're students that don't normally get to use computers. So, how do I plan to grab attention and engagement? Well, the three main ways that I found with this lesson in particular is through Gen Genius videos, through a muscular system or body systems. This really right here, this website does more than just the body systems, and that is through innerbody.com, and then through Quizlets and Nearpod. So here's a Quizlet. And so by using those tools, I can get them in one lesson. I can get them engaged in a video, watching the video, move into exploring through stuff, and then refreshing their memory on this stuff, and then take a quiz that's a fun quiz where they don't even realize they're being tested. So Gen Genius. let's start there. What is it? How am I going to use it in my classroom? So, and why would I use it? First, it is an entertaining video web group. So they are education minded. They do really, they're science minded, and they have different content, core content. Well, my core area, my state standard says that we need to make sure that the students understand that our body systems are made up of cells working together, specialized cells working together to function our body through organs and organ systems. And so this video does that very, very specifically. It is very specifically tailored to the state standard and really national standards. And so it even outlines right here at the bottom, it outlines what are we going to do in this video. Well, it says multicellular organisms are made up of cells working together. So it gives the I can statements right there for us. And then if you look, if you notice, it has the lesson materials. And I can create a student link. And so if these students, if a student's absent and they aren't there for that day, I can create a student link and I can assign them some materials from the lesson. And I really, really like that. It is highly entertaining for the age group of students I have. There are students that are peers to them in their age group. There is a teacher that is teaching them in an engaging way, not too dissimilar from Bill Nye the Science Guy. And then it just is, it really grabs their attention, and it doesn't stay on one droning topic for very long. It moves quickly and often, allowing them not to get bored. So, how do I use this? So, I have a subscription through the school district. One of the teachers and I use this subscription. But even if the school district didn't provide this for us, I would pay for it because it is an invaluable asset. And so I use content specific videos that are fun and on target. And I even use some of the lesson materials when I do lessons to formulate some assessment questions, or they may have labs that we can do so we can get into some STEM stuff through just one video, one web tool. I can have several different lesson units come out of this one thing. So when I'm starting a unit, for example, body systems is supposed to take 2 to 3 weeks. When I'm starting that, I will always go to Gen Genius first to see what they have, and often they have something really good. So innerbody.com. This was one I stumbled across not long ago when I was preparing for my lesson, and I really like this tool. So what they do is they have several pages like this that allows them to navigate and explore. So it has a 2D interactive and a 3D interactive. They can rotate, zoom in, zoom out, and the 2D interactive labels the different muscles like the deltoids, biceps, triceps, pecs, all that, and it tells their function. And so this allows the students to self-pace and utilize the technology by exploring the various body systems. So the way I integrate this into my lesson is I give them access via GoGuardian, which we will get to in a minute. And I guide them through the website first, showing them which of the body systems they need to pay attention to, which ones will be part of this assignment, and then I turn them loose. Another thing that I do is I assign a scavenger hunt with them, and we'll get to that when I start talking about the lesson and how we progress through the lesson. But this is really a great, great resource to get them thinking through how the different body systems work together. Now, GoGuardian is a key component in all of this, because if I don't have this and they have access to the internet, how am I going to monitor them? I'm one person trying to monitor 28 students. So what I do is our school provides us an account to GoGuardian, and it allows us to, we have the student name on a card, we have a website that they're at, and we can tell if they're trying to access a restricted website. We can turn on off task alerts. We can look at the timelines, snapshots, we can call students from this, and then we see our screens. And so what this allows me to do is I can chat with the students, or I can turn an entire class chat on. And this would have been really, really beneficial. They started using this back during the COVID shutdowns. And what I like about this is I can restrict websites right there. I can restrict websites. I can see if they're trying to go to a website, and I can take screenshots of it. So if I need to contact a parent and say, hey, your student was not engaged and this is why they're struggling, is because when we do these lessons, they're off trying to get on Facebook or YouTube or something like that. But I like that I can restrict specific websites when I'm having them explore the web. Because a lot of time these types of resources don't allow me to restrict specific things, and so it is a blanket restriction, and that can be problematic if I need them to be doing research using Google. So again, it's a monitoring app that allows the teacher or myself to give access, present to students, and monitor internet activity remotely. Why I use this is it prevents the various students that disconnect during a lesson due to their desire to browse the internet rather than focus. This allows me to really clamp down on that and prevent that. So Quizlet and Nearpod, what are they? Why do I use it? Well, the number one reason is these are fun ways to assess and gauge how students are learning, or it provides self-paced refreshers and study tools. And I can assign Quizlet flashcards to students, and they can go over those and practice those during downtime. It's not something that's timed. I don't have to make it available at a specific time or any of that. I can publish it to their Schoology app, to our classroom app, and they have instant access right away. So Nearpod is a little bit more of about a quiz or a test. And as you can see in the image, we have a multiple choice question. So it's going to be questions. I usually will take questions straight from the test they're going to see. And I let them know, hey, look, these are test questions. And so this gives them a timer, and they'll have all of their peers right there. And so they don't see how they answered, they just see how many they got correct, what their points are. And I will, depending on the class, I can turn off the name. And so they can only see they can only see what I want them to see. And so what I like about that is they are able to take this test and really see how we're doing. And that is a very, very good tool to have. And so what I do is now using GenGenius, that's where we're going to go next. So using GenGenius, the way I introduce this to the class is we talk about, up on the board I will have the I can statements, and I have the agenda on what we're going to do with the class. And so I will say, hey, look up here at the TV. I have a smart TV. My laptop is connected to the smart TV, and I'll put it up on there. And I'll say, we're going to watch this video. It's covering what we're talking about. And then I pass out, before I click start, I pass out paper for taking notes. It may have fill in the blanks or whatever. It's provided by GenGenius. They provide note-taking resources, and it's very user-friendly, and it's very scaffolded to all learners. So then I play the video, and I will pause it at key moments at different intervals to ensure that they're comprehending, but also to make sure that they're staying alert and paying attention, because when watching a video, some students will just put their head down because it's not as important to them. Next, after we've talked about the video and we're ready to move on, I will guide the students through the process of navigating the link. The video is usually about 5 to 10 minutes long. I usually spend about 3 minutes discussing it. I have a 50-minute class. And so I spend 15 to 20 minutes on the GenGenius, 15 to 20 minutes doing this inner body exercise, and then we do 10 minutes of refreshing review. and then whatever I feel like we need to review the next day, we'll go back and touch back on it before we move on to the next part of our unit. But I guide students through the process of navigating the link. This usually takes a couple minutes, and then I've predetermined which students will get what. And so each student will be given a unique scavenger hunt paper that directs them through the different body systems and cells. The students' assignments will be based on their body systems, with each table that they're sitting at having every body system represented, and they will be studying them. At the end, students will have to give examples of how their assigned system complements and helps the other systems, and how they work together, and how we can look at our ICANN statement about identifying that the human body is made up of cells working together within organ systems to process us. And so by doing that, that allows them to do that. And so what I do is I have them write it down, and then if we have time before we need to do the assessment, I'll have them read some of their answers. If not, I save that for the first portion of the class the next day for us to do a group discussion. So why do I use InterBody? Well, the key reason is the InterBody questions assist them to become proficient at gathering the data and using that data to solve problems or connect the dots. And that, to me, is huge when we're talking about the digital standards that we have that we're trying to meet here. So Nearpod and Quizlet. So the last 10 to 15 minutes of class, students will compete using the Nearpod quiz, and that gives me a formative assessment, and it kind of lets me know where we're at and if I need to scaffold anything. Each question is timed, and the students get points for each question they've answered correctly, as well as the speed with which they answered. And then the top three get prizes. First prize can get either Cat Cash, which is a reward system our district provides, or they can get a Croc Charm or a water bottle sticker. Second place gets to pick between a Croc Charm, water bottle sticker, or candy, and third place just gets one small piece of candy. But it is tiered to how they place. But first, top three responses get rewards, and the good thing about that is it takes the subjectiveness out of it, and it provides them with the actual test questions, so that when they get ready to take the test later, they're ready. So my assessment. First, we assess via games and flashcards. We just discussed that. Next, after the informal or formative assessment, I give a summative assessment. And that test usually includes things from the GenGenius resources and from the textbook. The reason I use our textbook is they provide these CER questions. These provide options for them to really, again, get into that retention and memory and processing and all of the things that are required. And the other part is it allows them to use problem solving. And that's huge for me. The other reason I use the textbook questions and I use the GenGenius is I can copy them over to Schoology in the format that they are in, and Schoology will do text to speech. And so that saves me time from having to scaffold the test down and modify it for my students that need text to speech based on their 504 or IEPs. And so this is just another way that the technology really streamlines the process for me. It solves a problem that I didn't even know I had until I was creating tests. And so by doing these tests on Google Classroom or Schoology, they get text to speech. And so now I don't have to set time aside to go with them, and they don't have to feel singled out, and they get to take the test in the same classroom as their peers when their peers take it. And I've seen just a boost in self-confidence by doing this. And all they have to do is they go get their headphones and plug it into their Chromebook. And it's really, really a simple process. And honestly, most students in the class go ahead and use that anyways. They all will end up going and getting headphones or pulling out their own headphones and doing text to speech, which is perfectly acceptable. So how does this align with my curriculum? Well, the Common Core state standard for science that this lesson aligns with the most are actually two. One is 6-LS1-3, and that states that the students should be able to use arguments supported by evidence for how the body is a system of interacting subsystems composed of groups of cells. And 6-LS1-1, they need to be able to conduct an investigation to provide evidence that living things are made up of cells, and either one cell or many different numbers and types of cells. These two kind of work together, and the Gen Genius video really touches on both of these, and the inner body activity kind of dials into that as well. The lesson plan will incorporate and follow the NETS-S standard of knowledge constructor. And it hits on a few of them, but the one I feel it hits the most is 1.3.D. And that states that students will be able to build knowledge by actively exploring real-world issues and problems, developing ideas and theories, and then pursuing answers and solutions. So they're building knowledge by exploring real-world issues and problems through the Gen Genius video and then the inner body exploration of the different bodies. So here's my conclusion on this. It is so important because technology tools can be efficient tools to provide scaffolding learning for students, and it can collect data on what learners need very efficiently and effectively. And so I can see real time using these tools what students are struggling, which ones are not. And then I can also see via the tool that we discussed with GoGuardian, I can see if is it because they're just not even engaged in the lesson at all. And that is invaluable. And so these tools have really helped solve problems that I didn't even know I had, and having them available to me